let's move on. So courses are one thing, but as we saw, as we start becoming practitioners, we need a different type of support. And it turns out that, well, I'll make that point. So let me ask this question of you, and I need to find the chat again. I'll tighten behind there. So how many times, or have you ever seen this situation where there was something in your organization you knew existed, and yet when you tried to find it, you couldn't? And well, again, when I asked this of everybody in audiences, pretty much everybody raises their hand. They know it's there, and yet they weren't able to find it. And am I seeing? All the time, yeah, 100 times, of course, right, exactly. This is a problem because here's the thing, our brains are pattern matchers and meaning makers. We look at things and abstract patterns. When we have some executive function that oversees us, so when we're trying to solve a problem, what we're missing is the ability to rote processing. What our brains are bad at is remembering rote and arbitrary and large quantities of information, doing complex processing. Now, it turns out technology is exactly the opposite. It's really bad at pattern matching. It's hard to get them to do pattern matching. It takes a lot of processor cycles. There was a reason why, you know, Siri couldn't work when you weren't connected to the internet, because it was going out and doing that complex processing out there. But technology is the exact opposite. It can remember arbitrary and rote information as long as we need, do complex processing, anything we can program. So when we couple ourselves with technology, we're far more formidable problem solvers. And the other thing to understand is that there are gaps in our cognition. The architecture we have is wonderful. It's allowed us to get to the stage where I can be talking to you and you're scattered around the world, and yet we're still able to communicate. But we have systematic gaps in architecture. There's no one all singing, all dancing best architecture. It's just not possible. They tend to have biases. So we have limits to our sensory store, and we need to do things like record this presentation and share it with you, because you can't be expected to remember everything. We have limits on our attention. We have working memory limits. We have limits on our ability to rehearse information and keep it active in memory. The list goes on. But we have developed tools to support these gaps. So we can use notification reminders to help us remember things when our attention isn't in the right place. We have external representations like diagrams like this. We have checklists and lateral pumps, and we can pull up data and use templates. The important thing is having this accessible one way. First of all, is designing for this, recognizing in performance when we're going to have these gaps and what the limitations are and what the appropriate tools would be, and then to have them to hand. So two things. I mentioned also knowledge resources. So this is about performance in the moment, but there's also resources over time that we can access to get a little bit more learning about this, that we can be self-directed for. This is when we Google for things, but if there's company-specific stuff that is not on the internet, can it be on the company network?